Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. I'm Anna.
And I'm Tori. And on episode number 2, we're talking about competition to collaboration, having pressure and expectations, and the positives and negatives of being compared to each other.
Thanks for coming along on the journey. Make sure you like and subscribe, share any questions that you may have so that we can answer them for you guys. And come on, let's get into podcast number 2. Let's go.
We compare each other to each other, so we're always competing against someone. So
I feel like when we were young, it sets a good tone for younger kids.
yeah, competition is always good.
Be competitive with each other, to learn teamwork that maybe somebody who is an only child never gets to learn teamwork, who may struggle with that later on in their life, or, team competition, whatever it may be, doing a school project and, having to do it in a group.
Yeah.
I feel like it sets a really good stage. When Gary Vee talks about like everybody, like
The third place
today, like everybody gets a trophy.
Yeah.
And when we were kids, like that's not how it went. And I feel like that's what it did for us when we were young. Like there was always, in our competition, there was always a 1 and a 2. There was never, we both won, So there's always that competition, like to be better, to do more. You're not going to be, if you don't win, you're not winning at all.
Yeah.
We always had another person like you who won, or
which was
in,
good for us.
in our
Yeah,
terms,
I
so
agree.
I feel like it always,
that was definitely an advantage.
it always made us compete, always made us push ourselves to be the best we could be. Whether that was, playing sports or doing schoolwork or just being competitive, like on a daily basis, playing basketball, we always had each other to practice with, which is, I think, made us, better and
Yeah, even
got
like
us
running,
places.
like even when we're going for a run outside, not even like at the gym, going for a run, it's great because I have someone to catch up to right now. You're a faster runner, so
Yeah.
I'm trying to catch up to you. Even when we were younger, playing a game, I don't know, we always used to play Can Jam out on the front lawn. Like we would be competing against each other to try to win, even if we were on the same team or separate teams. I think in those aspects, growing up, having a competition was great. I know competition isn't always good. It can become unhealthy, which we'll talk about because it did. It can be unhealthy always because we have a competition 24/7.
Yeah.
But it is definitely healthy growing up because I feel like that gave us our drive now to want to do more, even in like business and in personal life. Like I said, it's in our workouts now every day that we
Yeah.
have to compete against each other.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's been like having a built-in motivational speaker in your pocket.
Yeah.
We've always pushed each other to be our best, to do our best. Even when we were kids, like, can you think of an experience that like we went through where we would push each other to be like the best version of ourselves? Or like what we did that would be like competitive for each other. We played sports together. We played basketball.
Yeah.
And then eventually we went on to row D1 at Temple. And we told them that when we went to Temple, it was all or nothing.
Yeah.
Like you took
Yeah,
both
we
of
wanted
us
to- yeah.
or you got none of us.
Yeah, and in our interview with coaches, that was one of the questions that came up. Like, what if one of you get taken, and what if the other one doesn't make it?
Yeah.
And it was scary. Like thinking about that, it was scary. But we both made it, and we both ultimately, like, their decision wasn't because we said like we wanted to both be taken. Like we were
Yeah.
both like up there, top of the recruits that they were taking. So, but it's definitely like competition in certain aspects is good. In certain aspects,
And I
it's
also
not.
feel like it's helped us throughout everything, even in our businesses. Think about it, like day to day, like there's things that we have to do that you always are striving to be better at, and like we are aware of that. I'm aware of what you have to do, and you're aware of what I'm having to do on a day-to-day basis to build our businesses, to scale our businesses, and we're helping each other and pushing each other to do those things. Like don't fall behind.
Even in our personal businesses and businesses together, they're both kind of growing at the same time, and we kind of both help each other to grow those to then grow our businesses better together.
Yeah, I think at a young age, it could, for other kids, it could definitely like hurt some kids too, though, because I remember being like little, and for instance, the negative effect that it had on me was, I was always trying to chase you, trying to be better. And I think that's a good thing. I don't think that had a negative effect on me, but when we were little, you were always better than me. So I didn't understand, like,
It was
that's
harder
good for me,
Yeah.
But looking back, I understand now that it was good for me. But as a little kid, when you were in better classes, than I was like, oh shoot, like that sucks. Like, why couldn't I be in better classes? Why am I, dumb or not getting the grades that I want,
Right.
Or how does it come so easy to you? Like comparing yourself to others can negatively affect you and put you in a place where you feel less motivated. Think about it now. Everybody looks at social media and compares themselves to social media.
Yeah.
Essentially, that puts you in an even worse position than you are now, because you're comparing yourself. What do they say? Comparison is the thief of all joy.
Right.
So growing up, I feel like that may have put me in a little bit of
worse position? Not
a
worse,
deficit,
but yeah.
because I was overweight, and I always looked at you and was like, oh shoot, like why can't I be skinny? Why can't I, whatever it may be. So that for me was like a hard thing to like get over. Now that I've gotten over it, I see like how it's better for me, but comparing yourself to a point can definitely negatively affect how
even now,
how
like,
we grow up.
we're always comparing each other, so like even when you do something, I feel like I have to do it. Or if you make an accomplishment, I feel like I should be making an accomplishment too. Like, but we're on different paths. So like it gets a little bit more hard now because you have that same feeling, but we're on different paths. So like we have different timelines now. We're not doing the same thing as we were when we were little, and we could kind of just compete for that same thing.
Exactly.
Now it's like, oh, you're selling 5 houses, but like I'm still in school to become a vet. So like I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And vice versa. If you feel
Does it
you didn't go to
negatively
college,
affect you?
it doesn't negatively affect me because I know what my end goal is and what we're doing together is something totally different.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh shoot, like you're already making money. You're already, even though I have built a brand, for years now, before you even started your brand, it's like you're actually monetizing that brand now.
Yeah.
I was monetizing that brand too, but it's like at a different level.
It's at a different level. I agree.
So, but not negative at all. It's just like, oh shit, I want to do that. Like, how can I get there faster?
Do you think it would negatively affect you if we weren't doing things together? Like, let's say right now we're building a family empire. We're trying to build businesses. We're trying to invest. We're trying to, push each other to be the best and ultimately have 2 separate vehicles, but
Coming
bring
together.
those vehicles together
Eventually.
at some
Yeah.
point. Do you think that would negatively affect you in terms of if we didn't have plans to build a family empire together?
Maybe a little bit more, but I also feel like that would never happen. Like we're so connected, like even our family, like our family is so close, our family is so big yet so close, and we kind of have a lot of family businesses going on. So like it's not in our nature like not to do things together with family.
Yeah.
But maybe it would negatively affect because you have nothing to do together. You have no goals to see together.
Yeah.
But I know that like anything that you do is eventually going to come here, and anything that I do is eventually going to come here because we've already talked about that. But so I know that like we're all pushing together to this one pot, but like
I feel like
doing
it definitely
2 different ways.
It does make a big difference. I feel like because if we didn't have something to work towards together, or like, a family empire to work towards together, I feel like the more separated we are, the more it drives us apart. Essentially,
Oh, okay.
like, like
Like it would just keep driving us in different directions.
yeah. And I feel like if you look at siblings, sometimes they're, on 2 separate paths, and like one is envious of what the other one has because they built a business for themselves and the other one wants that, but maybe that sibling doesn't push their sibling to be better like them, or doesn't share, tips on how they can invest their money too, but everything that, whether I listen to a podcast and it's like, go invest your money here, and I'm like, oh my God, Tori, I heard this podcast.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
need to invest our money here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always sharing what I'm hearing.
Right.
And I think that if we weren't so close, if we didn't have that bond that we share, it could drive us apart, because me closing on a $3 million deal and making 50,000, you may look at that and be like,
Oh shit.
like, yeah, that's
I
not.
wanna do that too.
Yeah,
No,
I
I'm
want
not
to
gonna
do that too, and maybe like try to kick me down, or like do if I'm not sharing with you
Right.
how I'm doing that, how I'm monetizing my business, maybe how you can help, or what I think maybe you can change, So
Right.
I think that if it wasn't for communication and the bond that we share, that siblings that maybe are in different ages may have a different feeling.
Yeah, I mean,
against
maybe
each
that's why they say like don't work with your family.
Yeah.
But like, I personally,
I think
I
it's
would never
different
say that. It might be different for twins
for
if you
us.
think about that,
Yeah.
because like, again, you said people might be envious of each other, but I would never be like envious towards you.
Yeah.
Again, because we're working in two different places to get to the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never understood how people say like don't work with your family. It never turns out good.
And I think to a degree it could turn out bad,
Yeah.
Always there is that in a lot of businesses.
Like people say, oh, you can get into a fight and like never talk again.
Yeah, money drags the devil into,
Right.
into places.
But I don't think that we would ever be in that big of a fight that we would like never talk again.
yeah, but money drives people. So
Yeah.
if you think about it, at the end of the day, if money is that big divide in between a family, like it could divide,
Yeah.
But there's a difference between our bond and other people's bond.
Totally
So growing up, maybe they didn't have that bond. Or think about maybe siblings who are 10 years apart, The other one thinks that they know more than the other one.
Right.
And essentially...
Or like the little one is doing better because of social media now.
Exactly,
or something
and
like
they
that.
know how to monetize. They know how to do this. They know how to use AI to help them scale their business. And maybe the other one is envious of how they
of them
can do
working
that.
a 9 to 5. Yeah,
Yeah.
the older one's working a 9 to 5 and not,
Yeah, so I think that definitely, our bond ties into it growing up, and ties into our competition that has, driven us to be the best version of ourselves. But I feel like growing up, we were always seen as a unit. And I feel like the first time that we weren't seen as a unit was going into Temple, going into the crew
the story
team.
about
I feel like going and being recruited D1 to row, not knowing if you were going to get a spot, just
Right.
going. And I feel
Trying
like,
out,
they were the first ones who were like, well, what would happen if you two didn't make the team together?
Yeah.
And that was the first time that I realized, like,
wow.
I have to
Different.
stand for
Yeah.
myself and push myself, and you have to stand for yourself. And I hope that from everything from this point, on, that we've taught each other, like, just push through, like,
Yeah.
you could make it,
Yeah.
So I feel like that was, even when we got onto the crew team, when we both made it, we were put in different boats to race.
We were never put in the same boat.
And I remember our first competition, I think my boat, I think I was in a 4 boat,
And I was in 8.
and you were in an 8 boat. And I'm pretty sure that, if I'm correct, our boat got put in 3rd or 4th place. And I'm pretty sure that your boat got like 11.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't
11th
remember.
in the row. And I remember feeling like hurt, that like, yeah, I was happy
behind.
for myself that I did better and we got 4th, and I was proud of my team for like pushing and whatever place we got in 3rd or 4th. But I remember feeling like, oh, like, if only you were in my boat, we could celebrate together, you
Right,
know?
yeah.
So I feel like that it was probably the first time in our adult life that I felt like, oh my God, like, this is where
that's
we are
true.
not
Yeah.
together, you know?
Yeah, that's true. That's a great point. I think that people obviously feel that way from an earlier age than we do, but
Yeah.
that's crazy that you bring it up that way, because I never felt that way, but now that I think about it, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and it definitely brings a sense of like, it's like we grew up together and then we turned into our own individuality.
Selves. Yeah.
So it's like togetherness versus individuality, which is which. When you go into individuality, it gets a little lonely, you know?
It's kind of always happening. It's like always bouncing back and forth.
It is,
for
yeah.
us, at least.
Yeah, I agree. But I also think that there's a little bit of like loneliness in there.
Oh yeah, because we're always used to being together.
Yeah. I don't know if you've experienced it, but I definitely feel that way. Like when I feel bad for people who aren't twins because that loneliness, yeah, it makes you better, and it's okay to be alone. It's okay to be by yourself and know who you are and be okay to be able to stand on your own and, you know, personally develop yourself and whatever, all these things to better yourself. But that loneliness is something that I experience that is hard to get through.
Yeah.
And I think that you've experienced that loneliness, which is a negative, I guess, effect of, you know, not being together. But you experienced that at going to school and going to Grenada. So if you want to talk about like how that felt for you, that loneliness, being away for 4 months at a time, away from all your family, you know.
Super eye-opening. I'm grateful for the experience, whether I, you know, transfer to a U.S. school or keep going there to Grenada. Super grateful for the experience.
Yeah.
Very cool to live in a country like alone and figure out how to do everything on your own.
Yeah.
I think that because I did it a little bit older, you know, we're 23. So because I did it like at this age and not like when I was 18 when I like did my bachelor's degree, it was a little bit easier just because like we had already separated a little bit.
I agree.
And then finding friends and everything over there was great because everyone was starting, you know, like all my friends were starting too over there in a different country, in a new school. They knew no one. So that was a little bit easier. Maybe if I had been close to home, I wouldn't branch out so much and try to find friends because I'd just come back home.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like it was very eye-opening. So grateful for the experience.
I think it's so crazy how life sets you up in a way. At least in our life, I feel like life has like thrown these little hints and like set you up in a way that just like makes you better every time. Like
even if you come back,
even if you struggle in the beginning of like just
we went to temple together. Every day to you all the time.
We went to temple together. That was the first time we left for college. We left our family, right? We left our family. We went away to school together. We had each other, but it was still hard to be away from our family.
Yeah.
You know, during that time, G was sick. So it was hard to be away from our family when you know, G was sick and, you know, struggling.
Everyone's at home.
Ultimately, we came back home, you know, after G passed away and we were with our family. And right after that, once I started to get my tattoos done, I started to like be out more and adventure out by myself and eventually got, you know, into our relationship. And I just feel like over that, like everything drops hints. Like after G passed away, you know, I met Jazzy and she did all my tattoos, and after that, you know, I got into a relationship and it kind of just helped us along, you know.
Definitely.
And each way, like looking back at it, like if we were still stuck together like in that competitive force, like we were going to school for the same thing. We would have never have found real estate and vet. We were both going to be, we were doing sports and exercise science, which is totally off from where our paths
physical
are
therapy
now.
You're doing
so
like
it's really crazy how life drops these hints and just allows you to like grow and be your own person, you know. And I feel like if you would have went to school when you were 18 and we would have separated then, it would have been way harder for us to separate.
Because we were so close at that point. And not saying that we weren't close then, but you know, it was a slow growth.
Definitely. We weren't as close as we were when we were 18.
I mean, I wouldn't say like as close, just like we found individually what we wanted to do in a slower amount of time.
And I feel like, you know, it gradually pulled the carpet out instead of just ripped it out from underneath you know. So that I feel like is very cool to realize
let off
and
the
look
competition,
back.
like the comparing. And then obviously now, I mean, it's not so. much comparing, but like now we're kind of building our own careers. Obviously there are times that I'm like, oh shit, obviously, like we said, the real estate, I want to do that, you know, I want to be making that money or whatever it is.
Of course.
But I feel like now it's like, as you get older, it's not like so much comparing. It's kind of like trying to build together.
Yeah.
And just keep stacking.
It's moving from competition to collaboration.
Yeah, it literally
in a way.
is. Yeah.
And it's fun. It makes it that much better because we can hit goals together.
Together, yeah.
Whether that's a revenue number or, you know, how many properties or how many car washes we're going to buy, how many laundromats we're going to buy, where we're going to invest our money, how much can we grow that money? You know, it's cool to turn it, what you don't know at a young age, so we would never know. But if you teach your kids at a young age to be competitive, it can be turned into collaboration.
Yeah.
And I think that's the coolest thing that, like, even now, like, I feel like we'll try to teach, like, our little sisters and our kids too, you know, like, it's good to be competitive. It's good to lose. It's good to win. And it sets you up later on for collaboration, for relationships that you need to build to, you know, grow and turn into these different things. And I think that's the best part of it.
Yeah, I think that on the thing of like, everyone needs to have a twin, or if everyone could feel a twin, like that, the comparing is both good because you have the competition, you learn that way, but like also the negative of like the burnout and obviously unhealthy competition all the time. I think it like evens out like back to everyone should have a twin and everyone should be able to have that feeling, because being able to have that mindset, I think very few people have. And trying to teach someone that, like you said, like teaching our younger sisters that, like that's like all we want to do is literally like teach someone how we feel. And it's like super hard because no one understands, because we're like the same person. So I think that like trying to teach someone that is like a huge goal, because it's uncomparable. Like
you can't.
We're talking about comparability, but like trying to explain that to somebody, like it's very hard.
Yeah, it is. And I think that, you know, I think that's the way that you teach it, though.
By telling
it? That's us. Not by telling it, but by teaching competition that turns into collaboration. I think that's how you ultimately figure out, not that that's the only thing about being a twin, but that's the most of it. We become so good at pushing each other, collaborating with each other, competing with each other, but finding that place where it's healthy. And it's not unhealthy. It's not envious like other siblings may have. And I think that that's the best way that we can teach somebody how to do it, how to feel like you have a twin, you know?
I agree.
If you go out and you find, you know, the best business partner, you know, or the best
friend slash sister.
They're never going to be related to you.
Right.
So it's always going to be hard to teach that twin like. But if you can find somebody who pushes you, who, it's kind of like a relationship too. If you can find that person who pushes you, who wakes up every day and tells you it's going to be a great day, who,
or even if you're down, gets you out of bed at all. And I feel like that will be where we can show other people, you know, what it's like to be a twin. Because at the end of the day, you know, you grow up with this person, you're alongside this person, you compete with this person, you go to bed with this person, you wake up with this person, you eat breakfast with this person, and you do it again, you do it again, and you do it again. And I think to pat our parents' backs a little bit, they taught us healthy competition. You know, growing up, we always seen our parents. A lot of it has to go out to our parents, because if they didn't set the stage for a great environment and a healthy competition, it could have been unhealthy competition. You know, so I also think that it goes out to them. Parenting style, definitely.
The healthy competition, because, you know, we always seen, you know, dad go to work every day, mom go to work every day, and always, you know, come home and fight for, you know, everything that we have, and always seeing dad compete and want to be the best,
building his own business,
building his own business, and just really grinding every day, like sets the stage to be able to hustle and be like, I want to be like that,
Yeah.
you know, and us being able to see that at a young age brought in like,
that is a huge
yeah,
concept to competition turning into collaboration. Watching him build his own business, like for our 20 years of life, has been like the ultimate. Slowly. Yeah.
And just recently he was able to finally
accomplish
his goal. And it's been since we've been, since we've been so young, probably before we even born, that he's been trying to build and get to a place where he could say, and even when his store opened, when his cannabis dispensary opened, if anybody's wondering, that's what it is. He finally got to open a cannabis dispensary down in Long Island, LICC, Long Island Cannabis Club. You could see in his interview like that he was so happy to finally have these doors open.
But to be able to watch that from 0 to now 23 is like having that,
not
just,
giving up.
Yeah, not giving up, building a business, trying to get things to move. It's insane because I think everyone should watch someone grow up building a business, because having those like little things at a young age, just watching that happen, your mind by the time you get to 18 is like wanting to do that as well. And that's okay if not everyone wants to own a business,
but put yourself around those people
but because like 9 to 5, even if you want to do a 9 to 5, working what you love and like doing that to your best of your ability and having goals, it's different even for your personal life, not even just going to a 9 to 5 and building someone else's business. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. It's healthy for you to see like someone grind like that. And being able to
but even see the struggles too, everybody, you
so
don't see the struggle unless you're near somebody who is going through it. And I think that's what essentially it is the most about. You want to see those failures. Who cares about them? Everybody sees the wins.
Everyone.
Right? So essentially being at home and seeing him come home every day frustrated or mad that something didn't get done, or upset that COs didn't pass, or this is taking too long, lawyers are doing this, not, seeing those struggles, like
how to get through
is
them.
Is what makes you like, that's not what makes you like, oh, I want to do that. Obviously seeing his wins is what makes you like, oh, I want to do that. But actually seeing somebody struggle just allows you to know that you can do it
and
too.
Then getting there after. And then getting to his goals.
Exactly.
Gary Vee would always say like, he's an entrepreneur, but he loves to eat shit for a living because of that. Because it's always failing, and then becoming something great afterwards. It's that builds from that little age. The comparing and the competition to collaboration is all you need to be successful.
I truly agree with that, because without seeing any of that, like, I wouldn't even know where to start. If your parent isn't building a business, is just going to a 9 to 5, how do you know what to do? You don't know what to do, I mean, unless by the grace of God you figure out that you want to be an entrepreneur. It's hard to do without seeing somebody go through it and knowing not what to do, but just knowing that like you can do that too.
Just seeing someone else do it so close to you.
I do agree with that.
Being compared to each other, I'm sure people have always compared us to each other, but if we were compared to each other like our parents compared us to each other, like, oh, do this like your sister, do this like that, that could have been a very negative thing. That could have turned bad as twins.
I do agree too. I think that, like we said, how our parents raised us really played a huge role. I'm not really even sure like how we turned out so great. Because I inside feel like I turned out amazing. And I always try to like think about like how did that happen?
What is their parenting style?
Like what went right and like what slipped, like what went right and what went wrong? Because like, how do I do that? Like I always say like how could I be like a parent, like to create somebody like myself, like that's hard to do. Like what did they do that made us not have unhealthy competition, or maybe it was just them not comparing us against each other. Because even they wouldn't do it, but I would do it in my own head,
Right.
compare myself against you. And I think that going into middle school, not that I was bullied or like,
I think maybe, not to cut you off, but I think maybe they tried to like keep us individual.
Yeah.
But we were the ones who always compared
So
us.
that
you
could
know
be
what I'm
it,
saying?
yeah.
Like, yeah, like
That
they
could-
never tried to. They were like, oh, it's okay. Like, you do your own thing.
do your thing,
It's
yeah.
okay that you came in second. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah.
I agree. I think that is in our head, honestly. Now that you're saying it, I definitely do think like that, because I compared myself to you in middle school when I was severely overweight.
Yeah.
And I think that definitely negatively impacted, me in my own head, comparing myself
yeah.
to you. I mean, I was overweight and
Yeah.
like scared to be bullied. Maybe people, I don't really remember, maybe like once or twice somebody did something to me that like hurt me, or like,
Right.
like made fun of me, or like whatever. I remember having to go to gym class and being so scared because we had to run the mile.
Oh, yeah.
And I was so overweight that I was like, there is no way that I could do that. There's no way. Mm-hmm. And that, like, I would tell little Anna now, like, you can do that.
Yeah.
Like, don't worry. Like, now, if there's people making fun of you, 10 years later, you can run a mile.
Yeah, exactly. And beat most
in
of those
7
people.
minutes and 50 seconds,
Yeah, yeah,
Don't
yeah.
worry. Like, you're in 6th grade and that means nothing now.
Yeah.
So I think that going back and
Yeah,
that
could be a
makes me
negative.
happy,
Yeah.
like being able to like tell myself, like, if younger Anna had you,
Yeah.
like she would have been okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool to like share too, because for younger kids, like it gets better.
Yeah.
Like when I was in middle school, I went to therapy, and I every day at lunchtime I would go and sit down with a therapist and
Right.
and talk about, because I was not okay with myself.
Right.
And I think I remember dragging you to have lunch with me because I didn't want to be alone with the therapist, so I made you come to
Yeah.
lunch with me every day
Yeah.
outside the lunchroom because, I wasn't okay with myself. And I think like that's where it negatively impacted me, because I was comparing myself like
To something,
to
yeah.
you, maybe other people too, like
Yeah.
everybody in our grade. I was like so overweight and so not healthy
Yeah.
that I think that I was like, damn, like why me? Like why do I look like
Right.
this? Why do I feel like this? Like,
So just
But
like
then-
extra unhealthy competition.
I
But
think
then-
that
yeah.
it just,
I think also
it
maybe
hurt.
being like a little bit too like mature, like maybe you were comparing yourself to a little bit like of a higher level.
Maybe.
Because we were always like a little bit mature, like we always wanted to like that business mindset, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like I feel like maybe it was a little bit too like mature as well, like mature competition, you know what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
I don't know.
do. I think so. I think, we were definitely a little bit above our age
Yeah.
grade. We knew a lot. We were around a lot of adults,
Yeah.
a lot of mom's friends, dad's friends, our families older, than us.
Yeah, trying to grow businesses.
yeah,
trying to
we
do
didn't-
shit. So we were always like in that mindset of like trying to be better.
Like we would
So
sell
that-
stuff to people next door because
Yeah.
we wanted money.
Uh-huh,
We would
yeah.
walk around and sell lotion and painted rocks
Yeah.
to our poor neighbors in Levittown because we were always trying to be better.
Yeah.
Always trying to be better. And I think that even, I think it just comes down to like, even our Girl Scout cookies. Remember,
Yeah.
we would like want to sell the most Girl Scout
In the
cookies
troop, yeah,
in
yeah,
the
yeah.
troop and like go knocking doors for
We
hours.
just made everything a
Only if
competition.
now I would knock doors to sell real estate.
Right.
Because I'm
If you weren't
terrified
scared
of
of
it.
it?
If I wasn't scared and I was just selling Girl Scout cookies, maybe that's how I should think of it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to sell Girl Scout cookies. Do you want to sell your house today?
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe I would get a couple of them.
That's a great point.
That's
Yeah.
a good point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It was always competition now that I think about it, but like
It negatively affected me in definitely in middle school.
there was negatives and positives, of
Yeah.
that.
I think that that's the biggest thing that happened to me in our competition, I think, was, and I'm not even really sure how I got out of it. I think it was just growing older and losing weight. Yeah. But it was definitely a struggle, like in middle school, comparing yourself and being overweight.
Yeah.
And like I said, if I just had Anna now to say something, it would be, you know, you got this, don't worry. And even now I tell
you're struggling now, look at Anna, because
yeah, you got this. It will definitely be okay, I promise you. And even now I look at myself and be like, shoot, am I gonna really be that person that I want to be? And like, I have a letter that I wrote to myself in like 6th grade.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't. That's so weird.
And you know, I did it a few years back when I first was in a relationship. I did it. And
You wrote the letter?
I wrote a letter.
Oh.
And Mom handed it to me like a year ago.
Oh.
And she was like, read this. You told me to hold on to it.
Oh, shit.
And I have a letter. So I have a couple of them over the
that's so
years.
cool.
And I think,
I didn't know you did that.
yeah, and I think it's really good for people to do because you're scared where you're going. Everybody's scared.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks they're not going to get there. They're not going to make it.
Wants to get there quicker.
Yeah, you know, how it's going to happen. And I think that really helps. It's really cool to see, like, for that older person to have that younger person that's like, yeah, it is just more competition. But it's that older person, like, being like, you see, I told you, like, you had it. Like, you know, like being able to read the 6th grade letter in 10th grade and knowing like, see,
no, it's actually really
you
cool,
had that little kid, like you had that person, and now being able to read one from 2 years ago, being like,
that's wild.
You know, whatever, I had $600 in my bank account, and now, you know, I have
whatever
I have in my bank account, thousands upon thousands. Like you just, it's like you have that person inside of you. And
right.
Like, where are you going now? Like,
yeah.
Don't worry. Like, you have that person.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've heard the jokes. We've seen the movies. But what if we actually told you there's an actual chance that we got switched at birth?
The next episode, we're diving into the wild story, the mix-up at the hospital, and the moments that made us question everything. Are we really who we are? Stay tuned. You won't want to miss this one.